Hey guys, welcome back to the Midlife Awakening podcast. My name is Odilia and I am your host. And I'm so grateful that you're here. On this podcast, we talk a lot about healing our nervous system, reconnecting with ourselves, and navigating the many transitions that come with midlife. But today's conversation introduces another piece of the healing puzzle that we don't often consider, and that is our environment. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt calm or completely overwhelmed? What if your home is quietly shaping your emotions, your energy, your relationships, and even your healing journey? Today I'm joined by Moni Castaneda, a Feng Shui expert, speaker, author, and creator of the 9 Steps to Feng Shui system. With a background in architecture, Moni blends ancient East Asian Feng Shui principles, that's a mouthful, with modern design to help people create homes that support their nervous system, reduce stress, and reflect the person they're becoming, not the person they've outgrown. In this conversation, we explore how our homes can either support or sabotage our well-being, why clutter is about so much more than organization, how our surroundings influence our nervous system, and simple yet powerful ways to create a home that feels safe, restorative, and aligned with the next chapter of your life. If you're in a season of reinvention, healing, or simply craving more peace in your everyday life, I think you're going to love this conversation. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Midlife Awakening podcast. I'm your host, Odilia. This is a podcast about transformation for women who are waking up to who they really are while navigating everything that comes with midlife. And I want you to know I'm on this journey right alongside you. This is the show where we explore everything from the spiritual tools that can help us in our daily practices to healing modalities that we can use to heal what we've been carrying for so long, to the everyday midlife topics that a midlife woman faces, like perimenopause, finances, career changes, and so much more. Each week we go deeper into what it means to heal, to awaken, and to finally become the most authentic version of yourself. I'm so glad that you found your way here. Hi, Moni. Welcome to the Midlife Awakening podcast. I'm so glad that you could join us today. I'm really excited to have you here. So this is the first time we're going to have someone on that's going to be talking about healing our environment as opposed to healing our mind or our body. So this is going to be hopefully a really exciting conversation. For people listening, they may have heard the term Feng Shui, but maybe they don't fully understand it. So how would you describe Feng Shui in a simple, practical way?
Well, Feng Shui or Feng Shui, there's different ways to pronounce it, is the ancient East Asian art of placement that basically teaches you what to put where and in what color, shapes, and materials so you can be happy, healthy, and successful, right? So by controlling your environment, you can be less stressed out, more productive, and get along with others better.
Oh, that's great. And that's just by, the placement. And has it got to do with like the energy
Yes.
flow in the home?
Well, um, part of it is the energy flow. How things flow in your home shows you how smoothly your life goes. When there are things on the floor, when there are things getting stuck, your life doesn't go smoothly. When everything is in its place, when everything has a place, when you're able to actually find the things that you're looking for easily, all of that creates a sense of harmony and balance in the home. When everything is out of place, when you have to step over things to get places, when you can't even walk through a room, that's going to make you stressed out. That is going to make you unhappy, and that is going to be seen in the different aspects of your life. So part of it is the flow, but part of it is also the messages, right? So everything in your home is talking to you. Make sure all those things have good things to say.
What made you personally fall in love with this work?
Well, I think, from when I was a child, I was always in love with spaces. And I studied architecture in my home country, which is Ecuador, which is a small country in South America. And when I came to the United States, I found out I would not be able to practice my profession because there's no agreements between the government of Ecuador and the government of the United States in regards to profession. So, for example, if I had been born in the Philippines, I would have been able to go through a process to have my degree certified here. But because I came from South America, there was no way to do that. So basically, if I want to be an architect here, I would have to go back to school basically from scratch. And I wasn't ready to do that because I had been in school for many years already. And so a friend suggested I look into Feng Shui because I had always liked like the sleek design of Japanese gardens. I always thought that was fascinating. So I was talking about that with a friend. The friend said, well, look into Feng Shui, right? And I did. And I fell in love with Feng Shui. But I didn't fall in love with the execution of Feng Shui. When I first became passionate about Feng Shui, I wanted to go to businesses and to the homes of people who had Feng Shui consultants help them, right? And when I went there, I wasn't wowed. I was like, huh? What's going on here? Because they were using as Feng Shui cures or enhancements these objects that come from other cultures, right? And so I was walking into the homes of people who said they had their homes completely Feng Shui. And it kind of looked a little bit like a Chinese restaurant or a Vietnamese nail tech shop, right? Which those aesthetics are great. I love the look of a Chinese restaurant. But I don't necessarily want to put those things in my home, right? Because the decor in my home is different. And so I thought something is being lost in translation. And I think indeed something was being lost in translation because I wasn't seeing results. And being an architect, for me, if you have applied feng shui to a place so that the energy flows well, the place also has to look good. If it doesn't look good, in my opinion, that's not good feng shui.
And that's very important that like the two have to meet, right?
Yes.
So, was there a moment when you realized that the environment around you was actually affecting your well-being?
Kind of yes and no, right? I'm sure you have heard a lot of people talk about how some of our biggest geniuses in the history of humanity were really messy, like they live in very cluttered spaces. And they kind of say it to try and justify and say, oh, smart people are messy. Smart people have clutter. But it's not actually that. It's actually the opposite. Only the super smart, only the geniuses are able to go through life and be successful and be productive in a place that is cluttered, unorganized, and ugly. It's because they're so smart they can override those environmental concerns, right? But for most of us, it's not like that. And I think for me too, when I was younger, and I have an amazing mind, right? When I was going through the School of Architecture, my place was not organized, and it didn't bother me because I remembered when I dropped things accidentally and didn't pick them up. I remember where they fell. So if I was looking for an eraser, I remember, oh, last night I dropped it, and I know it fell on that corner. But as time goes on, and then as you get married, as you have children, you can't do that anymore. You have to have some sense of order, not just because your memory, your alertness is not the same as when you were younger, but also because you live with other people and you have to show those people respect. And when you have children, right, you can't let your place be a total horrible mess because it's anti-hygienic and because you need to respect the children, you need to take care of them, you need to make sure that you keep them alive, basically, right? And that they are healthy and that they have a sense of harmony and balance at home. And so I think for me, it was more of a matter of a slow realization of how things could be different if things were not a certain way. That's for me personally, right? But I wrote a book that is called Room by Room: Feng Shui Secrets for a Happy Life. And in that book, I will actually make a contrast between the home of my parents, who had bad feng shui, and the home of my grandmother, who had really good feng shui. Like, my grandmother probably never heard the term feng shui, but she had good instincts on how to arrange a space, right? And I remember, like, my parents didn't care about the space. I mean, they were very neat. They were very clean. They were very neat. They were minimalist, but they didn't care to make a place beautiful. They didn't care to make a place welcoming. They didn't care to make a place safe. And so I remember those different feelings from feeling unsafe in my parents' home to going to visit my grandmother and feeling that I just entered paradise. And mainly, the way the space was organized had a direct correlation with the way people behaved.
It's so
But for me as
interesting.
an individual, in my own home, it was a little bit different. It's only like sometimes on hindsight, once I learned feng shui and I was thinking about, okay, these are the do's and don'ts of feng shui. And I started searching my memory and thinking, oh, my grandmother's home, it was all the do's. And my parents' home, it was all the don'ts, except for the clutter.
So interesting to me how that sort of comes up in our environment.
So Feng Shui is healing from the outside in.
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah,
really love that. Because on the show, we talk a lot about nervous system regulation and healing the body and the subconscious.
exactly.
So you're bringing something really interesting into the conversation by bringing in the environment. So
Yes,
how does the environment impact the nervous system?
hugely, right? I was watching a lecture where somebody was saying that even though we live in our modern life, with all this security and safety we have in our homes and transportation, we never stop looking for that leopard in the tree, from where our ancestors were going through the forest. And so actually our brains are designed to every 20 seconds scan the horizon for potential danger.
Oh, wow.
Every 20 seconds, which is, to me, it sounds insane. And so when you are in a home that has reminders of potential danger, when things are not in their place, when things are incorrect, that is going to trigger responses in your nervous system. And let me give you an example. For example, I have been to homes where somebody took out a light fixture from the ceiling and they just left the wires there. Have you ever seen anything like
Oh, my
that?
goodness.
Or they took a sconce from a wall and they just left the wires exposed.
Oh, wow.
So you have something like that in a home. That's a constant reminder that there could be a short circuit, that somebody could get electrocuted, right? Another thing is if the home has settled and there's a crack on the wall, your mind at some level is going to be thinking there could be an earthquake. Anything that is off in your home, it triggers the part of your mind that feels that it has to scan for that constant danger, for the leopard in the tree. And so if every 20 seconds your brain is scanning your environment and getting bad responses, that's going to have a really bad effect in your nervous system. If, on the other hand, every time your eyes and your brain scan your environment, you see things that are beautiful, that give you a jolt of happiness, that make you feel good about yourself, that is going to turn off the sympathetic part of your nervous system, where the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? And it's going to activate the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, which is in charge of clear thinking, reflection, healing, and growing.
That's amazing. And I suppose that's going to look differently for everyone, right? Because it's really based on your own experience of what makes you feel unsafe.
Yes, but there are certain things that are true for everybody. So exposed cables, like what I talked about, like somebody took out a light fixture and the cables are still there showing, that's going to be rare. But something that most people have in their homes is unorganized cables.
Ah,
That's a trigger.
yes.
Cables on the floor, that's a trigger, right?
Okay.
Faucets that are dripping, that's a trigger. And so there are these things that are in every home that affect people equally. There are other things that may be rare, like in most homes, you're not going to have a crack on the wall. In some homes, you will. And in some homes, there's a crack on the wall and it's not really a problem. It's just the house has settled, right? But in some cases, that could be a problem. And so we are constantly looking for signals in our environment that we're safe. And if we don't find those signals, it kicks in the fight or flight mechanism.
You just need to sort of go through your home and take a look at what actually is there, because maybe you don't even notice it, right?
Well, the thing is, you can never get used to bad feng shui, but you can become numb to it.
Mhm.
When you're no longer noticing things, that means that you are numb to it. So one exercise that you can do is you can come to your home and pretend that you're somebody else coming to the home for the first time, and take a notebook and write down what are the assumptions that you would make about the people living in this home if you didn't know who they were. How many people would you say live here? What would you say they do for a living? And what assumptions would you make about their taste, about their design choices? What are the messages the home is giving you? And that is always affecting you. You can become numb to it, but it doesn't mean it's not affecting you. And one of the most important things is that first impression when you first come home, right? That first door when you open your home. That is what is going to give you a sense of what your home is like. So if you open the door to your home. So like I open the door to my home and I have a beautiful display there with some artwork and an entry table and some decorations, right? So whenever I open my door, I think, wow, I'm a creative person. I'm a person who likes light. I'm a person who likes color. I'm a person who appreciates beauty. And then as I continue circulating through my home, I get reinforcements of that perception, right? But if you come to your home and you open the door and the first thing you see is a bathroom, you're going to start feeling like your life is going down the toilet. The first thing that you see when you open, say for example, that you come in from the kitchen door. And as soon as you open that door, the first thing you see is the stairs going down to the basement. You're going to feel like your whole life is going downhill. The home affects you. The home speaks a language, and that language is expressed especially on the walls, right? But on every single thing that you have chosen to put in your home.
Oh, that's amazing. That's such a good way of thinking about your space and assessing it,
Yeah.
just to understand, sort of where you are. So can you actually, when you go into someone's home, could you actually see someone's patterns or where they're stuck just by looking
Yeah.
at that space?
Yeah. So there are some things that you can see because they're kind of obvious, right? And there's other things that because there's a map that we use in Feng Shui called the Bagua map that subdivides the floor plan of your home and assigns certain spots of your home to certain life areas, right? So there's a wealth corner at the back left, there's a relationship corner at the back right. So I can go, it has happened. So for example, I went into a home and they have an image of 3 people in the relationship corner. And I told them, that's not considered auspicious or of good omen because the relationships are for 2 people, not for 3. And then the wife took me aside and she told me, my husband cheated on me a few months ago. We're just getting back together after that had
Wow.
happened, right? And so there are things that I can know because I have this map in my mind of how it applies to every home, right? But there's other things that are kind of obvious. So, for example, I went to work with a client, and one of the things that she had told me before I went to her house is that people always end up hurting her, that she trusts people and then they put her down or they betray her. And so when I walked into her home, the first thing I noticed is she had an extremely expensive bottle. It was from some Venetian kind of art. It was extremely expensive. It was extremely fragile. And it was put on top of a pedestal that was in the middle of her foyer. The pedestal was not very stable. The expensive bottle on the pedestal, it could be knocked down easily. And it was put in a place where just from regular traffic of people coming in and out of the house, it was putting this expensive piece of art in danger, right? And so you could be wearing a shawl, right? And walking quickly through the foyer, and the shawl could get caught in this expensive, frail piece of art and break it. And then as I was walking around her house, I thought I would never let a toddler just walk through this house by themselves, because there were so many things that were placed in spaces where they could be easily hurt, things that were expensive, that they were fragile, and they could be easily hurt. Another one that I remember is as you were going down a hallway and then you came out of the hallway and you turned left, there was another really expensive piece of art that was just placed on the floor, which it would be really easy to kick by a person who was not paying attention, or even while you were cleaning with a broom, a mop, or a vacuum cleaner, right? And so there I could see that correspondence, right? And so then I had to have a conversation with her about putting herself in positions where she could get easily hurt. And so we started working on moving her valuables to places where they would be more protected. So that's one example I can think of where you can see what is actually happening with a person. And there's other things. For example, as you were asking me before, what things could indicate danger or trigger the part of the nervous system that is the fight or flight, right? It could be, for example, a tall bookcase that is not anchored to the wall, that if a child were to climb on it, it would topple over, right? So there's all these things in a home that if they would potentially be dangerous for a child, they are creating stress for you. even if you don't ever invite a child in your home, anything that is a potential source of danger, anything that could be a potential accident, it translates as bad feng shui. And here's a typical one is like glass coffee tables or glass and metal coffee tables that have sharp corners. And you go into somebody's home and they tell you every single person in the family has hit their shins in that coffee table, right? And so every single family member has gotten hurt. And then you're thinking, wow, these people are not noticing this coffee table is a danger to their safety, and they're not doing anything about it, right? So that's that numbness that I was talking about before. So one trick that you can play if you want to have good feng shui is to just walk around your home and think how safe and how interested would a child be. If a child would be safe, and then if there are enough things in your home that would be so interesting and attractive that a child would have their attention called to them, then you probably have good feng shui.
Okay, so basically child-proofing your house.
Child-proofing your house, even if you don't have children.
Even if you don't have children. And
but also decorating your house with exciting things that a child would like. And I'm not saying make your home into a nursery, right? But have some things that, some things that are shiny, some things that have bright colors, some things that have contrast, and you put them in strategic places, and that uplifts the energy of your home. If you have things in your home that make your eyes dance a little, then you probably are creating good energy at home.
And how important is color in this whole process?
It's super important, obviously, right? And so one of the things that you do in feng shui, the way I teach feng shui, right? We try to match the colors to the function of the room. That's where we start. So for example, in the primary bedroom, you have 3 functions. The main function is rest. And then you have these complementary functions of being intimate with your partner, and the other complementary function is reading, right? And so you need to try and create an environment in the bedroom that creates calm, safety, and intimacy, right? And so you would not have in the bedroom, say, for example, wallpaper with a zebra black and white pattern, right? Because that would not create the kind of environment that you want in the master bedroom for profound communication between the partners and for deep rest. And so first we look at that. What does the room need according to its function, right? Now, if you have a family room, of course, the energy in the family room needs to be more active. And if you have a dining room, the colors of the dining room and the colors of the kitchen need to be conducive to eating healthy foods. So, for example, if you were to paint your kitchen in yellow and red, which are the colors that junk foods places use, right? You're going to want to eat junk food.
That's
and so
interesting.
The colors have a profound effect in our emotions and even in our actions. And then you also have to consider, what does the person like? You should never, and I have seen plenty of cases where some feng shui consultant told people to paint in a color that they thought would be good for them for whatever reason, and the people didn't even like the color. So that's really bad, choosing colors because somebody told you and you hate the colors. That's going to be bad feng shui in the end.
Wow, so there's actually quite a lot that goes into it. It's not just the placement of items.
Yes.
It's so much more than that. This is so
Yes.
interesting. And where you mentioned the knocking the shins, I've just realized my bed.
Your bed? What about
My
it?
bed is a problem. I need to go and sort that out now, because I keep knocking myself and my kids keep knocking themselves. So I need to go and get that sorted. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And once, when I'm here telling you, you're like, right, that's important. I should do that, but you have become numb to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's just something you have to deal with. That's the way the bed is, right?
Yeah.
But now you start seeing that, no, that's not something you should get used to. That's something that is potentially dangerous, right?
Yeah.
That somebody has already hurt you and your kids. So you need to figure out a way to fix that.
I'm going to do that today.
Awesome.
So many women in midlife, they reach a point where the life that they've built no longer reflects who they are becoming, right? Because we have
Yes.
these identity shifts that we go through. So do you see that reflected in the homes as well that you've worked in?
Oh, definitely. And so one of the things that happens is that often when you reach midlife, that's when your children are teenagers, or if you started early enough, that's the time when your children start going off to college or to live by themselves, right? And so there's so many things that you give up when you are a young mother, right? There's so many things you want to do that you can't do because of the kids. And you're kind of putting like a mark on those things, the things that you will do once your children grow up and then don't need you so much, and then you'll be able to do all these things that you couldn't do. And then when the time comes that your children are old enough that they don't need you as much, or they're even not living with you at home, sometimes you can't remember what those things were that you were so eager to do. And sometimes it's like they're not interesting to you anymore. This thing that you were desperate to do, when you were 25, you're not desperate to do at 45. And so it comes a period of rediscovery. Okay, what it is that I want to do now, and what is it that is important to me now. There's a lady on TikTok that I was following, and she would talk about the concept of the on-call mother, because you go from being a full-time mother to just being on call. You have to be there any time of day or night when your children need you. But a lot of the time, they don't take kindly to your advice or to your opinions anymore, right? They want to do their own thing. They want to be by themselves, and they don't want you being like a hover parent or a helicopter parent over them anymore, And I think at no age the children would appreciate that anyway. But you go from this situation of having all of your energy on the kids, even if you have a job, right? When your kids are growing up, most of your energy, the focus of your life is them, which is natural and healthy, right? But once they start growing older and they don't need you as much, and they even can start rejecting your concerns, they want to be away from you. And, they would rather be with their friends, with people their age, which is the healthy thing to do, is the healthy way to be. But then you have this loss that you feel you are no longer as important, and you feel that you are no longer necessary, and that you don't know what to do with your time. And so, and a lot of the things that I see happening right now of women that we were raising our children at the same time. Some of my friends, they have gone back to school, they have gone back to get their master's or to complete a PhD, or they're starting businesses to keep themselves busy. And sometimes I think they did things too quickly because they were afraid of that emptiness that they were starting to feel. And maybe they got into a business that is not fulfilling to them, or maybe they just went back to school and then they got a job that doesn't really give her the freedom that she expected she would have at this stage in life. So I think it's important to slow down a little bit and try and figure out, okay, what do I really want? And one of the things that you do, would you like me to talk about the empty nest and when kids leave home, how to deal with that emptiness? Yeah. So one of the first things that you need to do is change the bed cover of your children's bedrooms. So maybe your child went to college, right? And you're not going to turn that bedroom into a gym just yet, because they're coming back, and summers are coming back for Christmas. And, in many cases, with the economy the way it is, they might come back to live with you after they're done with college. Or maybe, they stay with you, living with you while they go through college. But one thing that can lessen this feeling of loneliness that you might feel as a mom, as your children grow older and leave the home, even if they live with you, but they're not there most of the time and their interests are outside of the home. Change the bedspread so that when you're walking by their bedroom, you don't get attacked by this feeling of nostalgia, right? So change the bedroom. If you can, also change the window treatment, like change the curtains. If they have left in a permanent or semi-permanent basis, move the furniture around so it's not the same. So one of the things I did when my younger son left home, he went to live with his partner, and we had this sense of sadness, right? So we scrambled the chairs in the dining room, and we turned the dining table in a different way so that we could not know where he used to sit. Because in the beginning it was like, oh, the empty chair, right? And then we rearranged his what had been his bedroom into a haven for the cats. So that when we were walking down the hallway, instead of seeing an empty bed and thinking he's no longer living with us, we saw two beautiful cats taking sun, right? So you need to make sure that you make these little shifts in the environment so that you are not hit with nostalgia and sadness all the time. And over time, as their living becomes more permanent, as you are able to use the space in a way that vitalizes you. Don't let that old bedroom become a junk room, right? And so maybe if you never had a home office, maybe your home office was your laptop on the dining table. Maybe you can turn one of those bedrooms into a home office. Maybe you can turn one of those bedrooms into a yoga room or a meditation room or a guest room full of beautiful things, And so the idea is to reclaim the space in a way that helps you be who you are today. And it helps you be okay with your children moving on with their lives because you are still building a full life for yourself.
That's some really great advice. And it's so practical. Like it's
Yes.
something that it's so simple, but you don't actually think of it when you're going through that phase. I think because it's easy to hold on to the nostalgia and it's hard to let go,
It's like space holds memories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to make sure that you don't let yourself be overwhelmed by the memories that would make you miss that person too much. And another thing that you need to do, right? So I recommend that every family have a family photo that is current all the time, right? No more than 2 years old. And so one of the things that you can do is put away most of the photos of your children while they were little, and instead replace that with photos of your children in the present, right? And so, for example, we have one of our sons. He loves to fix old cars, so he got a Jeep and he likes to go off-roading, right? So I asked him, like, give me a photo of you off-roading. And there's a picture of him, like he's standing on his Jeep in the middle of a river and he looks so happy, right? So we have that photo up. And then I got my other son, he just graduated from college. And so we got a picture, a graduation photo of him. And so that these images remind us of what is important to our children, and they remind us to honor them and love them as they are today, instead of trying to hold on to the memories of who they used to be.
Oh, I really love that. That's like honoring, like celebrating them in the present as opposed
Yes,
to
exactly.
being
Yeah.
stuck in the past. Oh, I
And that's
really
what
love
they
that.
want, like I never met a young adult that relished on the idea of their parents always thinking of them as a child, right?
Mm.
And so you you gently start removing the reiterations of them in childhood in your home, the different iterations of them, right? You gently start removing those and putting those in photo albums and putting on your walls things that represents the present and how much you trust them, right? And so I remember one time before I had children, I was talking to a woman that I really respect. She was a naturopath, and she told me this, and I never forgot. She said, I raised my children in a way that I can trust their choices, even when I don't understand. And I thought, oh, that's going to be my life goal when I have children, is to raise them in a way that I can understand and accept your choices, even when it's not clear to me why they're doing something, that I can love them and continue to love them, even when they make choices that I wouldn't have made, right? If that makes sense. And one thing that has been helpful for me is this thought that if something were to happen to me right now, if tomorrow I was no longer on this plane of existence, I know they would be okay, right? So I know that either of my sons, they would, whatever life brought to them, whatever challenges they had to face, I know that they would face them with courage and with grace and with trust in life, right? So that they would be okay. So I have confidence that my children would be handled will be able to handle their lives if I was no longer here, right? And because I can answer yes to that question, like, do you think your kids would be okay if you were no longer here? Then I can also have the same attitude even though I am still here, right? So I can trust them today that they're going to handle the different situations that life presents to them in a way that that is okay, that is all right, because I raised them to be themselves, to understand themselves, and with enough respect and care that we didn't destroy the spirit right while they were growing up, and so that they can trust themselves and their choices. And I think that once you can do that as a mother, you reach like a new level of relationship with your children.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. That's so well said. I'm going to remember that quote, and I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind now as I raise my boys. I love
Yeah.
that because they really
How
do just need.
many boys do you have?
I have two boys, and they're still quite young because I started late. So
Well, I started too. I had my first at 35.
me too. Me too.
Yeah.
He's 7 now, and I've got my youngest who's 2.5. So
Yeah.
still a
Cool.
way to go for me.
Yeah. But
So
when you're an older mother, you I think so. There's something that you give up, from being an older mom. You don't have as much energy as you would have had 10 years before to chase after them. But now you have more maturity, you have more understanding of yourself and life, you have more patience. And so there's many advantages of being an older mom.
absolutely, and I've even seen between the two, between my oldest and my youngest, because there's
Yeah.
a 5-year age gap. I've even seen the difference between how I've mothered both of them.
Yeah.
Like just the
Uh-huh.
wisdom increases, the
Yes,
patience increase. I have a lot more patience for my younger one than I did possibly for my
for
older one.
sure. Yeah.
But it's interesting to see that contrast between them and how I mother each of them.
Yeah.
So another big transition that some women face in midlife is they might experience a relationship breakdown, go through a divorce,
Yes.
maybe leave a toxic relationship. And so suddenly they're living either they're living in a home that's filled with memories of the past, or they have to move into a new space. So how do they begin to reclaim that space for themselves? Because they're going through this identity shift as well. So where do they start trying to understand
Yeah.
how
I would
how to
say
design the
the
space?
first thing, right, in the first case that you mentioned, where the the woman would stay in the home she shared with her husband, and now the husband's gone. I would say let go of the bed. And if for whatever reason you can't let go of the bed, replace the mattress. And if for financial reasons you cannot replace the mattress, get a mattress topper, right? But try to put distance between you and what that relationship used to be. So ideally, you would change the mattress, you would change the bedding, you would change the bed. And in some cases, if you have the room, so for example, if you have another room where you could put a queen size or a king size bed, you can leave the primary bedroom for a while. You could turn that into your office or a gym room, an exercise room. And just to separate yourself from the habits of relationship that you had. So the primary bedroom represents how you related to your partner. So exiting that bedroom for a little bit, if possible, that can be very, very positive for you. Redecorate as much as you can. Let go of wedding photos with that person. Do not keep any photos of your former partner outside of your children's bedrooms. So if you have children and you have divorced, in your children's bedrooms, there should be a photo of you with them and a photo of their father with them. With the exception, so like if you had a restraining order on the parent and the other parent is dangerous for the child, then you wouldn't do it. But if they still have a relationship with your child and they're not horrible, terrible people, right? Your children need to see a photo of them with you and a photo of them with their other parent in the bedroom. So that part is important, right? And let them have whatever they want to take that is really important to them, that doesn't really matter much to you. Just let them have it. Like if they want to take the rug and it means a lot, just let them take it. Don't keep things that have a bad flavor in them. So I've seen couples, right, that they feel really bad, like to take to keep a set of wine cups and then they felt bitter every time they used them. Right? So don't keep in your home anything that gives you bitter feelings. Don't keep in your home anything that has bad memories, right? Just let everything go, replace as much as you can. Do keep the things that you love and that don't have bad memories associated with you. There are things that you can do to cleanse the energy of furniture. If you want to remove the old energy, there are things that you can do. So you can use incense, you can use essential oils. There's other practices that we have in Feng Shui to release the old energy, right? But accept that this is your life now, and you have a new place to redecorate, right? And in the case where you have had to leave the home and you have to go into maybe you had to downsize or just move to a different place, this is an opportunity for you to assert your taste. When you are married to somebody, the decisions that you make in your home decor should be a negotiation, right? Before you buy a rug, you need to at least ask his opinion, and I have actually had many clients improve their relationship, their marriage greatly, just by the wife starting to ask the opinion of the husband before they bought something for the home decor. I've had husbands finally felt that they matter, that they are listened to, and they, as a result, became more communicative because it's like, oh, my opinion matters, because before, and they've told me, before I used to come home and, oh, there's a new wardrobe. Oh, the house got painted, and all of a sudden they're being asked their opinion, and so I tell, because most of my clients are women, right? I tell her, okay, calm down. If you want to get like a new sofa, narrow it down to 3 choices that you love, and then show those 3 choices to your husband and have him choose out of those, right? Because any of those you already love. But it's important that he feels that he has a part in it, right? Now, when you leave the home and you have to start over in a different place, this is your opportunity to assert yourself. Then as time goes on and you again become open to having a new relationship, then you can start making room for that other person, right? But now is the opportunity for you to be you. That expression, you do you. This is your time for you to do you. It's time for you to choose everything that you like, all the colors that you love. I had a friend that she was married to a man that was like 20 years her senior. She took care of him after after he was very old, and he couldn't take care of himself, and she was a very good wife, and they were very much in love. It was a very good marriage. But after he passed on, and she told me, you would not believe the happiness that I feel when I put a plant in a certain corner and it stays there and there's nobody coming to tell me to move it. And so she had great pleasure on just being the mistress of her own house in that way, right? So now it's an opportunity to do that. And it's also an opportunity to review, okay, what went wrong? What did I do in my old house that didn't work for me? And what can I do different today? And that can be from the choice of furniture, right? I had a client once that she had beautiful furniture, but in her dining room, she had a large glass and metal dining table that was just really cold. When you put your forearms on the table, the first thing you felt was just like the cold, and so in her next home, she got still a round table, but wooden, sturdy, like when she and she did mention, how different it felt, to have like just a regular standard dining table that was comfortable and practical, instead of having just a beautiful dining table that was impractical and cold.
Yeah, that can make a big difference. That could make a big difference. I
Yes.
didn't even think about that. Like something as simple as a dining room table and the material that it's made of.
And then also the size,
Mm.
So having a furniture that is a good size for the space that you have can make a huge difference. Sometimes people will get furniture that is just too big for their space and doesn't leave enough room to circulate. Like I've seen this couple, they got like a humongous sofa and a humongous recliner and a huge coffee table, so that in their living room you had to walk sideways.
Mm.
because there wasn't enough room for you to walk between the sofa and the coffee table, right? And then it was a good size living room, but it was just the sofa. Everything was oversized, right? So you have to choose furniture that is proportional to the space you have.
I've had to get good at this because I'm terrible. I never measure anything, and I'm like, oh yeah, I think it'll look good. I think it'll fit, and then it comes in the house, and I'm like, oh man, I knew I should have measured that. So
Right.
I do like, yeah, I do force myself now to like
Yeah,
get the tape measure out, measure it. Oh, actually, it's not going to fit. Okay, I'll just save
exactly.
myself
See,
so much.
my key holder, my car keys have a measuring tape. I don't go anywhere without measuring tape for that reason, right? It's, how contractors say measure twice, cut once.
Yeah.
In Feng Shui, you could say measure twice, buy once, right?
Yes. Oh, I like that. Measure. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like that. Measure twice by once. Yeah, I
yeah.
have. I've gotten better, but I used to have that. Oh man, I used to order stuff online and just get so disappointed because either it was too small, it was too big. It's just so measuring is really, really important.
There's so many things when you buy things online. There's a lot of things that you cannot control, right? So, for example, the way colors display in um, your computer, right? So I'm looking at a sofa that I want to buy, and I'm looking at it in my computer, and it looks one color, which is an Apple computer. And then I'm looking at it on my husband's computer, which is a PC, and it looks a different color, right there. Just from one computer to another, it's a different color. And then when we ordered it, it's not either color. It's different. And so there's so many things when you're buying online you cannot control. But size is not one of those. You can
Yeah,
always measure.
exactly. I have no excuse when it comes to size.
Yeah, and that attitude, changing that attitude from just hoping something will fit
Mm.
to knowing something will fit, that is a change of attitude in life, where you go from just hoping things are going to work out to making sure they work out. So
Just
that's a
taking
huge
it.
change that you make in your space that is going to then translate to your life.
Oh yeah, I didn't think of. I'm going to start thinking more about this. How everything sort of translates back to life.
Yeah.
Everything with regards to my space.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I'm sure people always want to know about attracting love, abundance, better
Yeah.
relationships. Are there any simple feng shui principles that could help support that? Like anything that they
Sure.
could do easily today? Um,
So one of the things that everybody should do is make sure that their front door is attractive and welcoming. And so that could mean that you have your front door painted in a bright color. If you like that, it has to be a color you love. Um, but you can also put colorful things next to your entrance, right? For example, you can put a pot with flowers on each side of your entrance. You can have a very attractive mat, right? A welcome mat. And then as you open the door, make sure the door opens fully and noiselessly. It shouldn't be like the Adams family house where it shrieks, right? And so it opens noiselessly and at least to 90 degrees so you can go in carefully. Make sure that the first thing that you see when you come home is something you love and it's something that is reflective of your aspirations. What do you want in life? Then in your bedroom, make sure that there's enough room for both partners to reach their side of the bed. Have something beautiful across from the bed, something that both of you love to look at, and that is representative of stability in a marriage, right? So, an example of something, if you're a couple, in your primary bedroom, the wall that faces your headboard, that should have something that the two of you love. So, for example, if your husband is very much into golf and you are not, having a poster of a golf course there would be a really bad choice, right? But if you place an image there, like say for example, if you both like to go hiking and you place a photograph there, a place where you love to go hike together, then that would be a really good choice. Or an image of a valley, open spaces. And so you have to make sure that both partners have enough room to walk around to their side of the bed, that they each have a comfortable nightstand, that they both have a lamp, that they both have room, like to set down their glasses, their phone, whatever it is, right? And then live plants, if you have a green thumb, even a little bit of a green thumb where you can keep one plant alive, make sure that you have at least one live plant in your home, because the ability to keep plants alive translates to many good qualities in life. And in Feng Shui, live plants are associated with wealth. So if you can make a plant grow, you can also make your wealth grow. So the symbol for wealth in Feng Shui is the tree or the healthy forest, right? And so to attract money, you can have a water fountain in your foyer or an image of a waterfall that looks like the water's coming inside the house. Make sure you can walk through your home, right? And so a lot of people like have stairs. They start to decorate the staircase, making the staircase dangerous. Like they put a different ornament on each of the steps, and that makes it super dangerous. So make sure hallways and staircases are really clear, that nothing is stopping the flow. And pick things up. This is one rule that I have. It works both for decor, for decoration, but also for organization. Never put anything on the floor unless it was designed to go on the floor. If it wasn't designed to go on the floor, it shouldn't be on the floor, right? And if you can just follow that one rule of life, you're going to be so much happier.
That's a really good one. I like
Yeah.
that. I'm going to keep that one. So, what do people do in their homes that unintentionally block energy? That's quite common that you've seen.
Quite common is clutter in hallways.
Okay.
And clutter in their entrance. And so there's a lot of people who don't wear shoes in the house. And when people come in the house, they just take off their shoes and they throw them at the entrance. So that's going to block your flow. That's going to block money. That's going to block just the function, all of the different functions of life. And so having a place where you can put the shoes, or even just having a basket where you can throw your shoes in, don't even have to put them in order, whatever, but where they're out of the path. Where if you have your shoes where people could trip on them, that's very bad feng shui. So that's one thing people do. Another thing people do is putting a mirror at the end of the hallway. So it makes it seem like your hallway is twice as long. That's bad feng shui. So mirrors on the side of the hallway, not at the end of the hallway. But another common mistake people do is in the living room, they set it up like a movie theater. Like they get a large sofa and they put it against one wall, and then on the other wall they put the TV, and so their whole living room is like a movie theater. And then they spend their time watching TV or playing video games instead of interrelating with each other, right? Another thing, and it's so common today, and I don't know how that will ever change. But in most homes today, they're designed so that you eat your meals at a kitchen counter on high stools. You sit on high stools and you eat at the kitchen counter. And that promotes eating hurriedly and with stress and just, like going through the logistics of the family instead of enjoying meal times. And so one of the best things that you can do for your family is actually sit down at the dining table to have your meals, where you can sit on a regular proper chair with your feet on the ground, 90 degrees between your shins and your thighs and your thighs and your torso, right? So good ergonomics. If you can do that, you're going to have so much better family relationships, because children will communicate with you at the dining table, not at the kitchen counter.
Oh, that's so true. Like I noticed with my older son, he opens up a lot more and chats a lot more when we're sitting at the dining
Exactly.
room table, either with breakfast or that's sort of where we play family games. And
Yeah.
he opens up a lot more when we're sitting in that space as opposed to anywhere else.
And they actually, they did a study here in the United States of what was the main denominator of children who were successful in college, and it was family dinners. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's good. That's good to know that I'm on the right track.
Yes. Good job.
So you've developed your own sort of framework called the 9 Steps to Feng Shui.
That's correct. Yeah.
So what inspired you to create this system?
Well, when I first started to look into feng shui, and I saw like people were talking the talk, but they were not walking the walk in a sense, that I saw that they talked about Feng Shui really beautifully, but the things they did didn't look good. So I wanted to make sure that if a home was being Feng Shui by me or by somebody I train, because I teach people to become Feng Shui experts, that the home would be a dream home, that the process would take you from a home you're dissatisfied with right now to a home that is actually a dream home in the end. A life you love in a home that makes you proud. That's my motto, right? And so I started looking at, okay, why is this happening? Why are these places looking so weird? And so I had to go back to the source of Feng Shui, which Feng Shui shares the same principles of healing as acupuncture or Qigong or Chinese massage, right? So the principles are the same. Like I'm sure you've heard of yin and yang or qi, the life force, right? Or the 5 elements. So all the principles of healing that you would study if you're going to be an acupuncturist or if you're going to do Qigong or these different things, right? They're all the same principles. So I went back to the principles, and there's 9 principles of healing. And so I organized them by the numbers. And then I created a Feng Shui task for every one of those steps. So step 1 is to make sure your floor plan feels complete, even if it isn't complete. Step 2 is making sure there's balance. And balance is that there's nothing in your home that is too much or too little. So for example, if a room is too dark, right? Or if ceilings are too high, those are extremes. And so in Feng Shui, we call those excesses or deficiencies. When you control excesses or deficiencies using the principle of yin and yang, you create balance. Then there's the principle of qi, and qi is the life force. So there's this energy that needs to come through your home and visit the different areas of your home and feed your home with energy, right? So those are steps 1, 2, and 3. And then you go on all the other steps until you get to step 9. And step 9 is about furniture placement. And when you get to step 9, people end up with homes that they absolutely love. So I had a client who had lived in the home 15 years, the moment she hired me. And when she was done, and I put together the before and after photos for her, she cried. She told me, I had forgotten how unhappy I used to be with my home. And then she had a party in her home for her daughter's friends who were teenagers, right? And all these teenagers were super awed by her home. And she was like receiving compliments left and right. And then family members started asking her for help with their homes because it was so beautiful, right? And then her home became beautiful in a way that she could not have predicted, right? And so, for example, when you first opened her door, the first thing you saw was the kitchen. So we needed to distract the eyes from the kitchen, because if you open the door, the first thing you see is the kitchen. You start thinking, I gotta cook, right? And then you feel like houseware is never ending in your house. So we wanted to make sure that when she opened the door, her eyes were directed to another wall. And so she had a sofa on that wall. So we chose the most perfect kind of art for that wall for her, right? And it was chosen for a purpose, right? The purpose was to distract from the kitchen. But every single thing was chosen in her home to fulfill a purpose. And when you put all those things together, because she was following the system, she ended up with a dream home. And she said, like in 15 years, I had never felt comfortable inviting people over. And now I can't have enough social events, And so to see a life being transformed because they're following the principles of healing, because Feng Shui is healing from the outside in. So it's beautiful, like in this case and with so many clients, to see the transformation of their spaces, but also to see the transformation of them. Because like if you looked at photos of her before and after, she went through a makeover. So herself, she changed, her hairstyle changed, her hair color changed, the way she did her makeup changed. And it wasn't something, she didn't set out to do a makeover of herself, right? But as she worked on her home and as she identified what she really liked for her home, she started being more conscious of what she really liked for herself, right? And so at some point she was like, I don't really think this haircut is doing a lot for me, so she tried a different haircut. Then she tried a different hair color. And then she became a lot more relaxed, so in the beginning when we started working, she was a little bit, she was a lot into rules, right? And so she was a little bit not stiff, but flexible, right? Even in the way she moved. And after she was done with the Feng Shui of her home, she was so much more relaxed, right? And she was so much happier. And so for me, as a Feng Shui expert and as a teacher, for me, it's so beautiful to see these transformations in people at the same time as I'm seeing the transformations in their home.
So it really has such a ripple effect. It's not just
Yeah.
about the home, it ripple effects throughout your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. So I want to ask one question that I ask all my guests
Okay.
when they come on the show. So looking back at your journey, if you could give your younger self some advice, what would that be?
I think it would be that things will come on their own and at their own time, and that timing matters, because I can see how in certain at certain times of my life I so much wanted something to happen that it just couldn't happen at that time because the circumstances weren't there. In the growth of my business, for example, when I was raising my children, right, because I homeschooled them for 10 years and then they went to regular school, I enjoyed that process so much. But at the same time, I was like, oh, I wish I could do more for my business. Like I was like, I wish I could do this, or I wish I could do that. And I suffered at the time because I couldn't work as much as I thought I should be working, when my main job at the time was to raise the kids and to educate the kids. And so I think the advice I would give my younger self is to understand that there's a time for everything, and that timing matters, and that when the circumstances are correct and when something is for your highest good, it will happen.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. Because we do forget that, don't we? We
Yeah.
push and we feel like, oh, I need to work harder. I need to push harder. But really, sometimes it's exactly what you said. It's just not your time. It's not your time. Doesn't mean it will never be your time. It's just maybe not right now.
And sometimes we're already doing so much,
Mm.
as men, as mothers, we're already doing so much, and we have this feeling that like it's never enough, right? And that's not the truth.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's not the truth at all. And we need to stop being so hard on ourselves.
Yes,
You
and
know,
just when you have children, just getting through the day is a lot of work.
yeah, being a mother is hard. It's hard work. It's a full-time job. It's not, a part-time gig that you
Yeah.
do during the day and then you get to clock off in the evening. It's a full-time,
Yeah.
round-the-clock
And
job.
then if you do that with full presence for your
Yeah,
children when they're little and in every stage of their life, on their own, they will pull away from you. But the time to enjoy them is when they're still there, and having your 100% of your attention is the best thing that could happen to them. That is like a
absolutely.
blessing, and you need to enjoy that time.
Definitely. So if our listeners want to find you and work with you, where do they go? Let us know.
Okay, so my website is 9steps2fengshui.com. If you type spacearrangement.com, that takes you there too. Spacearrangement.com, right? But I also have, like, if you want to connect with me on social media and Substack and all of that, you can go to monilife.com. So Moni, my name, Moni, and then the word life. So monilife.com. That will take you to a website that's like Linktree. And so that will have all my links to YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. So all the social media, all the websites, the books, because I have written a bunch of books on feng shui too.
Amazing. And I'll put all those links in the show notes if anyone wants to find Moni and work with her. The links will be in the show notes for you. So thank you so much for coming on today. It's been really lovely
Thank you
talking
so
to
much for
you.
inviting me. It's been so lovely.
You're welcome. Thank you. I absolutely loved this conversation because it reminds us that healing isn't only about what's happening on the inside of us. It's also about the spaces we return to every single day. Whether you're moving through midlife, rebuilding after a difficult season, navigating an empty nest, or simply feeling ready for a fresh chapter, I hope today's conversation has inspired you to look at your home with fresh eyes and ask yourself one simple question. Does my environment support the woman I'm becoming? A huge thank you again to Moni for sharing her wisdom and reminding us that creating a peaceful home isn't about perfection. It's about creating a space that allows us to feel safe, supported, and truly ourselves. I know that I've taken a couple of her tips and I've applied it across my home, and I've felt a huge difference. If you'd like to connect with Moni, learn more about her work, or join her Feng Shui community, you'll find all of her links in the show notes so you know where to go. And if today's episode resonated with you, I'd love it if you'd share it with a friend who might need the conversation too. If you're enjoying the Midlife Awakening, which I hope that you are, please take a moment to follow the podcast, leave a review, and subscribe wherever you're listening. Every review helps us reach more women who are navigating healing, identity shifts, and the beautiful journey of becoming. So do it right now before you forget. Also, the Midlife Awakening podcast is now on YouTube, so you can head over to YouTube if you want to watch the videos of these interviews and a few little extra videos that I'll be putting out after the summer's over. So until next time, take care of yourself, take care of your heart, and remember, it's never too late to begin again. Bye for now.